Hi there, my name's Andy Hicks. I run the popular Eldar conversions website eldar.arhicks.co.uk. I've been asked quite a lot over the years how I achieve the indented lines and etching that you see on a lot of my conversions projects like the Pegasus. I'm going to do a written article about this as well, outlining the main points, but I thought a video would highlight this best. It's really quite a simple method. I've described it a few times in comments on the site, but I just wanted to get a video down so you guys could sort of see the process in action. What you're looking at here is a scenic base for my Hemlock Wraith fighter that I'm working on. It uses the High Elf Dragon base, which includes some bits of ruined scenery like this, and what I've done is I've added some plasticard to the base and replicated that cracked effect by etching into the plasticard. Plasticard is also known as sheet styrene. There's quite a lot of it about. You should be able to get it quite easily from model stores. I've been asked sort of if I use any special materials or anything. It's all really standard stuff that should be fairly easy to get hold of, and there's no magic or trick to it. So I'm just going to show you. So basically, I mean, the materials that I use. It's a bit out of focus. So this is pretty much everything that you need. Steel ruler for drawing straight lines. This is just a standard helix compass set that I picked up from WH Smith's in the UK. So the most important thing with this is the fact that you can change the edges, the ends on the compasses. So these are both points. So one will be used to anchor into the plasticard, and the other is used to just etch. For doing circles and things. Obviously the Eldar use a lot of arcs and curving lines. For anything more complicated I do it by hand. So yeah, and then just a pencil for obvious reasons. This is the X-Acto knife that I'm using. The blade on that is knackered and really needs replacing, but it does the job. And this is the key implement. This is what allows the whole process to be possible, and it's a really basic tool. So this is just a half moon. So if you look at it end on, it's round on one side and flat on the other. So it's a half moon needle file. I've had this one for years now. It really needs replacing, to be honest, but it still gets the job done. And the point of this is the bit that allows me to do the etching, but the fact that it gets wider and the fact that it's serrated means that it's possible to make those grooves wider. And then this is just some really fine grain sandpaper. I can't recall what the grain is off the top of my head, but it's a super fine one which is really useful for filing stuff down to a really smooth finish. And then the various thicknesses of sheet styrene or plasticard that I use. So this is the absolute thinnest. This is very pliable and flexible, and then this is the thickest that I use, and then this is the second thickest. There's only a small difference in those, only about 1/2 mil difference, but those sort of correspond to some of the thicknesses that Games Workshop use in a lot of their models. So really those are all the tools that you need in order to be able to do this. So what I'm just going to show, this is just a section of Falcon hull from the upper edge. I can also show you the technique also works on the styrene that Games Workshop use in their models. So I'll just use this as an example, just to show you how this is done. Just prop up the camera a bit better. Okay, so if you wanted, for example, to add in some additional lines on here, it's not coming up very well, but it's always best to mark on what you want to do first, just using a pencil. It doesn't have to be very bold, it just needs to be clear enough to you that you can see where you're going. And then I'm not going to bother using the steel ruler here, I'm just going to do this by hand. But really it's as straightforward as just drawing the point of the needle file very slowly and with very little pressure across the surface of the plastic. So you're just scratching it, that's all you're doing. So you can see it's a very shallow scratch. If I was to buff that out with the file or with the sandpaper, you wouldn't even be able to see it. So you've done very little damage to the plastic at this point, so you can get rid of mistakes quite easily. So just dragging the file very carefully across the surface of the plastic. Let's link those up. So you can now see the basis of the panel line that I'm trying to etch in. And now all you do, now that you've got the basic bit done, all you need to do is just go back over it, applying a little bit more pressure each time. And you probably have to do this a good dozen or so times, but you can already see just how much deeper that line is. And you just keep working on it. And you might occasionally go off the line a bit, but so long as you're not applying too much pressure, it's fairly easy just to remove any trace of those minor imperfections just using the sandpaper. And if you do go badly wrong, then Milliput is a really good gap filler for this kind of thing. So the key to this is, because of the shape of the file being slightly tapered, is that the further down you press into the plastic, the wider the groove you're getting without really having to do anything. So the file is at that angle going into the plastic, so you can see how it's already widening that, and it's kind of useful to have an old toothbrush on hand just to get the bits out of in between the cracks. So you can already see that, and you just tidy this up a bit. Just needs to go slightly deeper to take it down to the same level as the existing panel lines. So you just want to blend that in with what's there already. You'll notice there's a bit of burring on the edge of the panel line, so what will happen is that it will tend to sit up. It's very difficult to make out on this video, but you can just see it here. It's sitting up slightly. So the best thing to do is just to take your sandpaper once you're nearly finished and just buff that out. It will, I mean, that's slightly marred the surface, but it won't be noticeable at all once it's undercoated, and you'll see a lot of my work in progress photos of conversions have this kind of slightly scratched areas on them. That's basically just from buffing them with the sandpaper a bit. But what you can see there now is that you've got a panel line that joins up with the existing ones, and you can keep going at this for as long as you want, really, but I tend to try and replicate the existing panel lines in terms of their depth and width as closely as possible. I mean, that's just a hurried one that I've just done for this video, but you can see the effect, and that really is all there is to it. So I mean, I've used that technique on the Pegasus extensively, a little bit on my Wraith Knight conversion, and yeah, it really is that straightforward. So if you've got any questions, obviously just ask in the comments on this page, or drop me an email. But hopefully that should make it clearer how it works. And that's pretty much it. Cheers.